Alright, hello everyone and welcome to today's Gems of War video. This video I have for you my scouting report for Nexus week, which will begin July 8th, 2024. You can see Nexus there just to the east of the Big Lake. And in the underworld, you can find the Umbral Nexus, which is the faction for Nexus. Right there, a little bit more towards the southeast corner of the map. Just look for that little lava lake there and you'll find it without any problems. So let's go ahead and talk about the Nexus and the Umbral Nexus. So the Nexus is a stone armor kingdom. The trait stone that you can find there during Explores is the Arcane Shield trait stone. If you're grinding this trait stone right now, don't worry. You can also get the same trait stone from Blackhawk and Broken Spire. Nexus's current maximum power is 20 after the holiday event we just had, but during Nexus week, that maximum power is going to go to 22. The hero class for the Nexus is the all-important Elementalist class. It makes your hero an elemental and does a lot of crazy things. It is seriously the most powerful class in the game, so even if you do not do the class trial on Thursday, you will have no trouble getting this to champion level 100, especially if you spend time doing PvP. The faction, the Umbral Nexus, the restriction is purple or yellow. It has not been expanded yet, so there's still only 4 troops available there. Of the troops that are available, I think the Void Wisp possibly has the most value, but for the most part, you don't have to deal with getting any of them unless you're either getting Nexus to power 20 or getting your pure faction ready. Other than that, you can spend your Delve shards on other factions. Anyway, let's talk about the different troops that are available for Nexus and where they are. And for the purpose of this, I'm showing you the count relative to power 20, since power 30 is going to require 39 of them. But we're not close to that just yet. But if you have 29 of them, then you have enough troops to get the Nexus to power 20. Of the troops that are available, 23 of them are available in the various chest drop tables, and 2 of them are mythics. They'll be adding 2 additional troops for the upcoming Nexus week, and there are 4 troops available in the Umbral Nexus portal. The troop that's available on the Vault drop table is the Lover's Tarot card, and this is actually a very important one for a non-obvious reason. The reason is the Lover's card is the card that, once you have it, allows you to craft the most important weapon in the game. And I'm going to tell you what the most important weapon in the game is. You probably already know what it is, but hold that thought for just a moment. As for the Ember Claw is most likely not going to be available during Nexus week. It is the base legendary that you could have crafted during the holiday event, but typically it takes 4 or 5 weeks from the end of an event before the devs put the troop in the drop tables. So I would assume that Ember Claw is not going to be available during Nexus week, but you might have it already, or you don't. Either way, you can still get to champion level 20 without it for the time being. As for the weekly events, don't panic when you see that guild event. I know the last journey was an absolute slog. It was really terrible. But this is a much more forgiving restriction. Red mana and elementals, there's absolutely a lot of good DPS troops that you can get with that restriction, and you know it shouldn't be as big of a problem this time as it was last time. And for the weekend event, it is the Vault weekend. Back to what I said about the Lover's card. If you don't have that card right now, Getting a lot of keys and opening a lot of vaults might get you that tarot card. Anyway, let's go ahead back and we'll talk about the core 4 and 4 more lists. So we'll start with the core 4 list. As usual, this is the trials team that you need in order to get to the epic trials, in which it's the same one. But anyway, it is a kind of a slow-moving team, in my opinion. The legendary one is Queen Ash. The other ones are lower rarity, but it is kind of a, like I said, a little bit slow-moving. Doomed Gargoyle. I put this one in front because it reduces damage from skulls by 50%. But the spell's pretty good. It converts a chosen mana gem to an Uber Doom Skull, and you can use that to instantly create a skull match and do damage to the other side. Queen Ash does heavy splash damage to a second to last enemy. I think they missed some words there. Boosted by brown gems and allies, and it pulls that enemy to the front, then creates 3 elemental stars. Queen Ash also, if you have her traits unlocked, gives 2 magic to all elemental allies when matching brown gems. She also has the same damage from skulls reduction that the Gargoyle has. The Umbral Giant does a bunch of stuff. It's stealthy, so it's probably not going to get hit early on. It deals damage to an enemy, then converts 5 green gems to brown giant gems, which is good because you actually aren't using green in your team right now, which is so good. Then Shale converts a mana gem into an elemental star, and the elemental star is not the one that's purple and yellow, it's the one that's everything else. And Shale also creates a brown gem when your turn begins. She also summons Dust Storm at the start of battle. Dust Storm is good because you probably noticed that all 4 of these use brown mana. I think there's value in perhaps putting Shale at the front of your team if you want to keep the Doomed Gargoyle in a little bit longer. But I don't remember having a lot of problems with this team. I just remember it just took a long time to get done. But anyway, that is the Core 4 team. I'm going to show you the Core 4 list next. These are the next 4 that I think that you should consider getting. I'm going to start with the Nature-Born Wolf. There's actually 3 different troops that I kind of considered for this spot. The Nature-Born Wolf creates a green gem when your turn begins. It also reduces damage from skulls by 33%. Then it does damage to an enemy and entangles them, and if the enemy dies, it creates 2 elemental stars and then gains an extra turn. There are actually 3 troops that are very similar to that. You've also got actually 4, I think. This one's a little bit different. Creates a blue gem when Waterborn Scribe's turn begins. Converts all yellow to brown. Gives 2 magic to all allies boosted by gems converted. But the other 2 that I thought were very similar. Waterborn Owl does damage to an enemy, freezes them if an enemy dies. Creates 2 elemental stars and gains an extra turn. And then the owl creates a blue gem when your turn begins. Then the Stoneborn Lion creates a brown gem when your turn begins. Deals damage to an enemy, stuns them. If the enemy dies, creates 2 elemental stars. And you guessed it, gains an extra turn. So you can kind of use them to whatever fits the current strategy between the wolf, the lion, and the owl. I just put the wolf there because the wolf is an elemental and uses red mana. That in mind. Valiant Pyria, I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, is a god slayer, but she does damage to an enemy and then a bunch of stuff if they're a boss. then gains 2 magic for each elemental star on the board, so she is consistently gaining more and more magic. That can be fairly useful. I don't know if you'll actually need the Godslayer version of this, particularly not this week, but worth a look. The Nexus portal, I think, is the most important of the legendaries that are available in Nexus. This creates 4 to 6 elemental stars and then summons a random Nexus troop. So this will keep your team in the game. Conjures an elemental storm when matching 4 or more gems as well. I could have gone with King Heliodor as well, but I just don't. Even though he does true damage to the first enemy, boosted by brown gems and allies, I just don't like that knock to the back, because basically you have to hit the first enemy, but then you can't follow up with that. That is good though if you have an enemy that is kind of primed to do a lot of skull damage. But aside from that, I just not a big fan of this particular one. Now, as far as the mythics, you have 2 mythics to choose from, and then certainly do not spend event keys on trying to get these 2 mythics. Just wait for them to come in the Soul Forge. They're both very good. Kalika probably has the most value as far as the journey. However, if I'm going to give you a recommendation for just one, then I'm certainly going to recommend Aquaria. Aquaria does splash damage to 3 random enemies, boosted by submerged allies, and gives 4 life to all blue allies when matching gems. Blue Elementals is really useful for another of the big weapons that you can get in the Nexus, and Aquaria will definitely help you out with that. So I would say Aquaria, but Kalika, if you get her first, you're probably still in pretty good shape. So let's go ahead to the weapons. Normally I'm telling you about how to get the 14 weapons that you need to get for power 30, but for now I think you only need to get 6 just to get to 20. But if you want to go for more, you can. All right, well, let's talk about this one. This is the weapon I was telling you about. Now, good thing is, you don't have, if you can't craft this now, don't worry. This recipe is available in the Soul Forge all the time. But you absolutely need to get this weapon, especially if you want to get anything done in PvP. As far as how to craft it, you do need the Lover's Tarot card, which is the tarot card I was telling you about earlier. Once you have that, it's, I believe, 100,000 souls and 10 celestial trade stones. Compared to getting the Lover's card, the other 2 requirements are pretty easy to do. Once you get this weapon, you'll be tempted to use it all the time. It is a very, very good, it makes your hero a premier support. It does not do a lot of damage by itself, does not enable your hero to do damage from the first slot, but it will fill up all of your other troops. Now, the only thing is that it is prone to occasionally backfiring, and in which case, when it does backfire, it will basically fill up all the mana on the other side, and that can also mean that you lose. So my particular recommendation for the Wand of Stars is never use the Wand of Stars unless you can afford to lose. So if you're in the underworld trying to get stuff done in the delves, Wand of Stars might not be the best thing to use. In PvP, where if you lose, you just simply queue up and try again, then by all means, use the Wand of Stars anytime you don't have a kingdom restriction that is not Nexus. So anyway, you can get this one whenever, so don't worry if you can't get it now. Just get the Lover's card, and then once you get it, make it. Vulcan's Mace deals damage to one enemy, boosted by Nexus allies, and creates 6 red and brown gems for each Nexus ally, definitely worth a look. Umbral Tome is the faction weapon, and this is the one that you can craft on Tuesday, and you can also get from the Faction Assault shop. My opinion is the Umbral Tome is not that good. It's okay. Get it if you want. Get it if you just want to have it unlocked, but otherwise, it does not have to be one of the weapons for power reasons. Osha's Tome is the other weapon I think that you're very likely to use. This explodes 4 gems for each blue ally and each elemental ally, and that counts both if it's both blue and elemental. So if your hero, for example, is equipping Osha's Tome and is also an elementalist, then this will proc twice, once for a blue ally and once for an elemental ally. You basically when I see people using this, you basically have a lineup that's all blue and all elementals, and then just blows up every blue gem on the board. So anyway, this is a good weapon to get. I recommend that you make sure that you craft that one. Another one that I would recommend you craft is the Elemental Fury. This is one that explodes brown gems, grants a random status effect to Nexus allies, and then summons a Nexus troop. These are always useful. Elemental Balance, I would say, is situational. If you do not have Wand of Stars, Elemental Balance might be a good cope piece for now. It creates 8 green gems, then 8 red gems, then 8 blue gems, and 8 brown gems. Not as good as the Wand of Stars, but might give you just a little bit of a taste until you actually have it. The class weapon is a very interesting one. It's called Elemental Reach. It does damage to one enemy, then deals 12 more damage for each status effect: entangled, burning, frozen, and stunned. The important thing with this is it is pretty useful if you are equipping this to an elementalist hero. Reason why is that all-important third trait that the elementalist hero has, which stuns, freezes, burns, and entangles a random enemy when matching 4 or more gems. That's why people like this. That's why almost everyone likes the elementalist class, because it can stop the other side right in their tracks. And you see the status effects that increase that damage? It's the exact same 4 that you get with Elemental Force. So what you want to do is you want to get some of those troops on the other side, entangled, burning, frozen, and stunned, and then just use Elemental Reach on that. Now, generally, are you going to be using this instead of Wand of Stars? Anyway, let's go ahead and just briefly talk about the doomed weapon that's available in the Nexus. It is the brown insta-kill weapon. It can be useful, but it is a bit of a roll of the dice and is really only worth using if you have fully tempered it. So you can get it during Nexus week. It's a question of whether but if you're not going to temper it, then you don't have to get it. Anyway, let's go over to the pets. There are not that many pets that are available in the Nexus right now. Of course, the most important ones are the Gray Malkins. The regular Gray Malkin you get by rescuing it in Pet Rescue, and then you can ascend it by either rescuing it more times or using the Orb of Minions. Then the Starry Gray Malkin is the one that you get from doing the Epic Trials. And then behind that, you have the Ball Dog. The Ball Dog is what you get when you have maxed out the Renown for Umbral Nexus. You have the Moist Owlet, which boosts your elemental teams. You have Barkley, which gives you a boost to your nature gems, which of course is the green gems. And some of us, probably most of us, have Emberclaw's Castle, which gives skill points to Emberclaw. assuming that you also unlocked Emberclaw. And as far as the requirements for pets in terms of getting to power 20, you're only going to need 2 of these and a third one at any level. As far as the pet rescue event that's going to be available during this week, that pet rescue event is going to be a brand new cosmetic, so probably not one that you're going to get to level 20. But anyway, one last thing before we go, I did want to give you some ideas for the journey, because there are some troops that you can get from the faction portals that you might want to consider before the journey begins, because they are all elementals. They all use red mana. So I'm going to start with the Magma Dragon from Fire Rift, and this is going to be a really good one for you. This is the one I would say, if you don't have anything that you think you can use, just drop everything and start pulling from the Fire Rift until you get this one. The third trait conjures a lava storm when your turn begins, so that is a perpetual storm, and that storm, of course, is red and brown. And then the Magma Dragon spell does damage to all enemies boosted by red and brown gems at a ratio of 2-to-1. So this can actually do quite a bit of damage, and if you're like me and you've already gotten it to Elite Gold in a effort to try to get the Fire Rift faction done, then it is probably your best DPS troop that you can take with you on the journey. Frostfire King, kind of a close second, freezes and burns a random enemy when matching 4 or more gems, and does splash damage to 2 random enemies, burns the first group, freezes the second group. Burning is good because it's essentially just a little bit of true damage every turn. Freeze is good because it means that the other side cannot get an extra turn on those by matching those colors. And you can get this one from the Frostfire Keep. The Mirage Queen is one of the troops that you probably already have. You probably have a guild that has probably told you to get this first thing when you get to the underworld. And what's most important about the Mirage Queen is that it is the one that gives all of your elemental allies a 50% mana start. So I think this is going to be very key for the journey. It does use up a slot though, so just the spell that we may sometimes tend to forget, particularly if we're mostly using Mirage Queen with Rowan, curses all enemies and converts all green gems to Doom Skulls. This is very good because if you aren't otherwise using green gems, you can then just convert them to Doom Skulls. Possibly, most likely, you'll use this when you know that you're going to get an extra turn match. And yeah, that can do a lot of damage really, really quickly. But if you use the spell, make sure that you don't have a troop on your side that is using green. And this one, by the way, is from the Sunken Fleet. And then the last one I'm going to recommend is the newest one of the factions, Nightmare Circus, the Fire Lion. One of the good things about this one is you get Firelink, which gains bonus red mana from red gem matches, which is going to be important, which could be very important. This converts all green gems to terror gems and deals damage to a random enemy. The only downside to the Fire Lion is it somewhat conflicts with the Mirage Queen. So keep that in mind. This might be useful or it might not. If it is, you're pretty much putting it in there for the Firelink. And that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, subscribe to his channel, and or follow me on Twitch if you'd like to see more of my content. And in the comments below, let me know everything that you're looking forward to Nexus Week and everything I got wrong. And I'll see you in the next video.